I get so many people asking me this, especially clients. I want to be on the right path. I'm like, you'll never know. Are you freaking kidding me? I still don't know. That's the thing. Honestly, the answer is you don't. You don't know if you're on the right path, and you never will. The only time that you'll see that you may have made some right choices, and that right is also a very judgy kind of a right, because it depends from what filter or what perspective you're looking at the whole situation. Like now when I look at it, did I make the right decision to marry the man that I married? Not really. But was it the right decision spiritually? Yes, because he introduced me to this world. So it depends from which perspective of asking the question. So right is never, it's never the truth. The truth, it can be true for one thing and it can be true for something else, but it's never the truth.
Oof.
The truth is just one thing, and something that's true can be true for very different things, right? So it really depends on where you're looking at. But I also feel that if you're asking the question, you are probably doing it from your ego mind, because the spirit honestly doesn't give a damn.
Welcome to the Casual Temple. Our guest today is Aditi Nirvaan, who has spent over 20 years in mindfulness, shadow work, self-actualization, and energy alchemy. She's been a therapist, healer, facilitator, and coach. Her work primarily involves helping people self-actualize, transform, and wholeheartedly embrace themselves. A multi-award recipient for her contribution and impact in the world of therapy and coaching, Aditi is a master trainer with accreditation from IPHM, International Practitioner of Holistic Medicine UK, for designing and delivering original content in her private mentoring programs, certification courses, and retreats. In all her work, she focuses on clarity in thought, speech and choice, alignment with your highest self, and recognition of the work you are here to do, all steeped with a deep sense of meaning and fulfillment. Aditi, welcome to the Casual Temple.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to learning more about you and how you help people connect with spirit. I found you on Instagram and saw like quite a few of your videos, and they're very like, you're just like this is it, this is how you do it, and like it's very logical, and I love that approach. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So kind of where we start is, can you kind of tell us a little bit about your stories, so we can get to know how you ended up on your current spiritual path and becoming a mentor?
Well, like you said, it's been 20 years of doing this work. And I wasn't always how I am right now. Uh, in fact, the first half of my life was quite the mess. I will be very forthright in who I am. I don't like hiding, and I don't like, inflating things, and making myself very spiritual or anything like that.
Right.
Uh, the point is that I was very real from the beginning. And it's not something that a lot of people around me could digest. And it was often mistaken as extreme stubbornness, or rigidity, or, just being a problem child. Like she
Right.
really wants to have her own way.
Yep.
And for me, I was like, no, but there is something inside me that tells me what to do, and that if I don't do it, I know it'll get messed up. And it took me a really long time to understand that that's instinct,
Mm.
or the voice of my soul, or the voice of my spirit, or my inner voice. And it's got 100 names, right?
Right.
So, but by then, I had already faced a lot of stuff in my life.
Mm.
And because of all of the traumas that I went through, I have been, yes, I mean, I have been abused, and I have been through very closely through two wars in my life. And in fact, I was in New York during 9/11, and I unfortunately saw the whole thing happen.
Oof.
And I was there for work, and then that left a deep impact on my life.
Yeah.
And then I was involved with the Gulf War in 1990. I was in my teens. Right. So
Yeah.
wherever I
Oh,
went, disaster seemed to kind
oh
of
no.
follow, and
Yeah.
by the time of my 20s, I had already been physically abused, sexually abused. I had had a litany of traumas, like a long list of them.
Yeah.
And by my mid-20s, I really thought, if this is my life, I don't think I really have the strength to go on,
Yeah.
you know. And I had no guidance in my life at that point. And I turned to alcohol and I turned to smoking. And I was a hardcore party animal. I would show up drunk at work and it wasn't really pretty.
Yeah.
And I was very angry. I was a very angry girl. And, being the eldest daughter, we are almost half men.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the way we are brought up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
toughen up and, all of that. So actually, by my mid-20s, I started questioning a lot of things in my life. And I never thought for a moment in my life that I would even meditate. Like meditation was for losers, and that was for people who were boring. And I was like, okay, your life must be a big mess. I'm okay. So then I got to that place. And because I was dating somebody who was in it at that point, I
Mm.
got introduced to that world. And you do stupid things for love. So I turned out to do some nice things for love. And that really helped. I later on did marry the man and then much later divorce him. But the point remains is that when I had all these questions
Mm.
and I couldn't find answers, I knew I had to go beyond what I knew.
Yeah.
And then the journey began, and well, there's no looking back. And then I got educated in like a long list of things,
Yeah.
um, and certifications and therapy work. And anytime you go and learn any therapy, you have to do it on you. So I discovered a lot of gems there, right? There was
Right.
a treasure chest waiting there to be explored, and I had just been handed the treasure map.
Wow.
So it's been 20 years doing that. So certain people see me as coming to a certain place in life, I
Mm-hmm.
don't see it from that perspective. I still see myself discovering things every day and still on the same journey, and
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. Mentoring is happening now because I genuinely feel I have a lot to share with people. And I think there are many, many more people deeply passionate about taking this work forward. And those who resonate with me join me, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. What a story. Yeah. So much of that struggle. And then figuring it out all along the way and still figuring it out, right? I love that you said that because I think it's always you're not like at the top of anything. You're just like, I'm still figuring it out. Yeah. Uh,
Very true.
yeah. So I know you said that kind of, I guess in the first, half of your life or 20 years of your life, or it sounds like you didn't really have any support, but did you have any support or guidance, kind of in your journey, um, that helped you or inspiration or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I actually did have a guide or a teacher, you could call him. Some people would call him a guru, but I hesitate using that word because I find it a little old-fashioned.
Mm.
Uh, and there was this whole thing about me surrendering to the guru, which never actually happened. I was
Oh.
not able to do it, because I always felt very strongly that it's very difficult for me to surrender to someone who still is very much in his ego. Uh,
Mm.
and my
Right.
instinct kept saying no, 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 no. And by then I knew I had to listen to it. So it was a very, very, very conflictual
Yeah.
relationship. And there was a lot of back and forth, and there was a lot of anger, and then there were
Yeah.
moments of peace and learning and all of that. But it finally ended a few years ago. And I think when there isn't a one single teacher and you're left on your own,
Mm-hmm.
the struggle is much harder, but the journey is actually 100 times more beautiful.
Mm.
So he was not the only one. There were always a lot of other teachers that I learned from and I was inspired by. And I continue to be inspired and I learn from them as well, even today.
Yeah.
And every teacher has a beautiful essence of their own that I love to bask in. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like we discussed, I mean, the learning continues.
Yeah. Wow. I love that you pointed out, obviously, the like noticing that sort of ego in your guru, because, there's a lot of people that are talking about like gurus now, and they're like, oh man, they did this, they did this, they did this. And it's, because like you saw, I was like, oof, there's a lot of still ego happening there. And the surrendering is hard, right? Like you can't do it if you're like, well, they're deeply flawed, but they have such great teachings, what a struggle.
Exactly, which is why it was so conflictual,
Yeah,
you know.
gosh.
Ever since I was a kid, I could see through people very easily. I can still
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
But I never knew that uh, that ability that I had then could actually translate to the work I do now. I never connected it, it came about much later. And so when I would see people and I would call out on their BS, it would completely shock them.
Right.
So I had to learn to keep my trap shut.
Oh,
I
God.
realized that, okay, I'm really triggering people. I really need to keep quiet.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
And then I discovered one day that, oh, I can get paid to do this. That's not too bad.
You get paid to trigger people, or like pull out their the things that you
Yeah.
notice.
Yes, absolutely.
That's too funny. Oh man, yeah, I'm thinking about, because I'm in the corporate world still, but I've learned a lot of lessons, and one of them was that, right? Because as an intuitive person, I would start talking to somebody, and then there would be this like running dialogue in the back of my head, telling me about the person, right? Like all this information, and I was like, and then I would blurt something out, like blit, and then it was like, and then they get offended or hurt, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Put mouth every
Yes,
time.
exactly. Oh man, I just thought I was really blunt. Was like I'm just blunt. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's
I've
too
been
funny.
called out a lot, and I've also been called very intimidating. And,
Ooh.
yeah. And it's because when you call out people's BS,
Mhm.
they don't know how to show up with you
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
really trying to hide everything. And my point has always been, you don't need to hide because I'm not going to judge you for what I see, and it takes a bit of time for people to understand that. And that's okay, honestly. I mean, but the funny thing is, the moment they get to know me and they know that there is a lot of love actually there,
yeah,
they're like, oh my God, I can relax. It's not that bad.
yeah.
I actually benefited a lot. So I was like, oh, okay. So
Wow.
I'm sure you know what that feels like.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot. Like I'm also an oldest daughter, the oldest child
Oh,
daughter.
wow.
Yeah, so I was like, yep, like yeah, toughen it up, and but I'm very sensitive, so it was like
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
hard to balance. Yeah.
I know. Oh my God, it is.
Oh man.
Hmm.
So I definitely want to talk about your awakening experience, but before we move on, were there any I love talking about books because I love books. Were there any sort of inspirational books that you read that was like, wow, like opened up some doors for you?
I know that at the beginning of my journey, I did read a lot.
Mm.
I cannot remember their names and I cannot remember the authors.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things that also happens when you're on the awakening journey is that you don't actually remember a lot of things because you're also so many times you're being in the moment that
Mm.
it doesn't really leave an imprint on you. Because you're not triggered, nothing is happening. You're
Yeah.
just being present, and you're like, you don't have anything to carry with you.
Yeah.
So I actually don't remember a lot of them that I started with. I do know a lot of them that I've read recently in the last maybe 5 or 6 years.
Mm.
So books are like you. I'm a voracious reader. My weekends are filled with, lounging on the couch and having at least 3 books to read. And I keep switching between them. And I have some
Mhm.
on the Kindle as well, right?
Yep.
And phone is on silent and people are banging at the door. Like, we're trying to call you. Where the hell are you? Oh, book.
You're right.
Right. So I do have my favorite authors, and they're like a strange mix of the hardcore spirituality and the psycho spirituality or the psycho emotional or transpersonal psychology, because I love both, and my work also involves both. So I read people. So the real hardcore spiritual guys are like Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Neem Karoli Baba, all of his books. And then there are the Western guys. So there's Rupert Spira, I really love. I love Ken Wilber. I love Robert Augustus Masters. I don't know if you know about him, but
No.
he's a PhD in transpersonal and he's awesome. He does a lot of shadow work. So if that's something you really love, that you should, check out his books. I've read all his books. I have all his books. And then I adore this Canadian woman, Danielle Laporte. And I read her book, White Hot Truth, just when I had quit the whole guru ashram thing.
Right.
And the entire book is about how spiritual bypassing happens in ashrams and with gurus. And I was like, way to go, women. Thank you for blowing the lid off this damn thing.
What? Oh, amazing. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I love her stuff. She's like a high priestess of
Mm.
spirituality, and she's got a way with words. I love it.
Oh, man.
I really, really love it.
Now I'm
So
going to add some books to my collection.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I also like a lot of creative people. So I'm a huge fan of Julia Cameron and all her work. And I've signed up for her classes as well. So I have a creative side as well.
Yeah.
I'm a writer, I'm an artist. So, and I find that when you're on the spiritual path, so to speak, you do have a creative side that genuinely just opens up, because the need to express who you truly are just comes out.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I started writing, and then I wrote for a lot of international portals. So I'm a published writer, not an author in that sense.
Okay.
And then recently, I've started liking Stephen Kotler. So he writes a lot about flow and how to create more flow in your life. So a lot of us genuinely have flow, and we have moments of flow where it comes when it comes.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to purposely create it to maximize your potential. And I love the guy for nailing that and getting that out there. So Stephen Kotler is another one that I read. So yeah, these are all the guys that are there in my bookshelf.
Wow. Oh man. Yeah, I'm so excited. So many things. Like I haven't read into the subjects that you talked about, but now it's like I need to know more about another subject area. So I love it. Wow, especially about flow, because that's something I'm always working on, because it's like for me, I always want to push out, right? I push it out. I got to focus on like what make it happen, instead of like allow, just like having it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually how to be productive without the hustle.
Love it. I love that. Okay, so can we go into sort of, my question is sort of like, what is an awakening experience in your view? Like, how would you describe it to somebody?
Something which is actually very, very hard to put into words. I would say that my understanding of it is it's an acute awareness of your true self. It's an awareness of who you are with your light and your dark, both. And it's an embracing of that. It's not a, I have shame associated with these areas of my life, so I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to push it, right into the dark spot, which no one ever goes to, and I'm going to let it remain there. So it's never that. It's more about, oh, I have shame there, so let me take a look at that. That's when you're really interested in waking up from this blindfold and that we've had all our life, this veil that we've had all our life. And it's really more about finding your truth, embracing yourself wholeheartedly. And then what happens is we go beyond the relationships that we are in. We go beyond the work that we are in. Our relationship to money, body, all of these things changes. And then you actually start choosing different things in your life than you used to. And you never ever think that you would have ended up where you are. So the whole awakening journey actually starts with asking questions. So if I had to put it in one line, awakening is a process of having a shitload of unanswered questions about yourself, about your life, about your choices, about everything. And then starting off on the journey, discovering what the truths of those questions are. And that takes you somewhere,
Mhm.
But it always starts with a bunch of questions. And it can be as simple as, why am I here? Is this all that there is to my life? I mean, there has to be more than this. It can't be this.
Yeah.
This is nonsense. I did not sign up for this. It can't be so much pain. Are you kidding
Right.
me? Right?
Yeah.
And then it goes on to, so what's my purpose? I don't have joy with what I do.
Mhm.
And then I think ultimately we start questioning the fabric of reality. You know,
Yeah.
uh, that's when we start to realize the difference between when our ego is speaking and when spirit is speaking through us.
Yes. Yeah.
When you get to that distinction, you start finding peace
Mhm.
in a few moments here and
Yeah.
there.
Right. Yeah.
It's never permanent, it's always elusive.
Right. Exactly. Oh man. You're like,
Right?
I was feeling peace, but oh no, thinking about the
Exactly.
loss.
I was so peaceful and I was having like my lemon mint soda, and then I had thought, I need to pay rent next month. I don't have money, and there it's gone.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I
So
love that.
yeah.
Um,
So to me, that's really what awakening is. And
yeah.
honestly, it can take from a single moment to a few lifetimes.
Oh, for sure. Um, yeah, because I
I
think,
envy,
oh,
I
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, really envy those teachers who had uh spontaneous enlightenment. And I'm like, lucky bastards. How? People like
Nice.
Eckhart
Yeah.
Tolle and Byron Katie. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. That was what I was gonna or not ask, I guess talk a little bit about, because I think at least, this is my perspective, right? Like, I don't know if everybody thinks this, but because we talk, there's a lot of people interested in like Kundalini awakening. I had a guest on the show who had a Kundalini awakening. And I think everybody thinks enlightenment is like a lightning bolt like that, right? Kind of like what you just said, like, and then, oh, I'm enlightened, right? But even my
right.
guest who had Kundalini awakening, it's a process. And you just pointed it out, it's a process. And so it doesn't mean you're like a guru or you sit on top of the world and you have no problems. It's a process, and most likely a
Yeah,
very uncomfortable process. Yeah.
horribly.
Right.
I think it really creeps and takes over your life
Yeah.
if you have the willingness to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate discomfort, hate change, and that actually suppresses the whole journey. It pushes it away from you. And that's when pain actually occurs the most.
Yeah.
But when you realize that you can be comfortable in being uncomfortable all the time, then the journey is a little better, a little bit.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, there have been a lot of moments where uh, a lot of crazy shit has happened. I mean, like your other guest on the show who spoke about Kundalini. And I mean, I've had that, but I've even had what in Japanese Zen Buddhists call a Satori.
Oh.
Uh, and Satori is like a very, very brief window of real seeing.
Hmm.
I don't like calling it enlightenment because that feels like it's the end of the journey and it's the be all, and it feels very egoic to call it that,
Yeah.
But this is where there was like a few hours, in fact, around I think probably like a whole day, where I was able to see this character called Aditi, and I was able to see how her mind works. And I can't even say I was able to see it. It's more like it was able to see me.
Oh. Yeah.
Language fails here.
Yeah, totally. Like wait, no, not I.
No, yeah, exactly. Because there's no I at that point. And I
Yeah.
think for almost 12 hours, I have only laughed. Yes, I have only laughed because I thought the whole thing of being in a body and having this mind and all of it was so bloody
It
ridiculous.
is.
And where there was this thing where I could see me
Yeah.
for all. yeah, lost for words right now. That this character is pissing and moaning over things that are so irrelevant in her life,
Yeah.
and she's just complaining and she's not happy. And it's like, what is there not to be happy about? And there was so much happening in those 12 hours, but I literally found everything funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a complete disassociation with the body. Complete.
Hmm.
It's like I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, this is interesting.
Like, what's
It's
this?
like,
Yeah.
I wonder what this does. You know, I
Wow.
stood under the shower and it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Like, it's like if you put a puppy or a baby under a shower and the way it would experience it,
Hmm.
I kind of got how it would be for them.
Hmm. Yeah.
So there was like this absolute wonder about everything. So I've had that happen like a couple of times in my life, and there was no trigger. There was no pain in my life that was going on at that time. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was spontaneous, literally.
Yeah.
And it just happened. And and yes, after that, there have been a lot more insights. And after the first one, I think the distinction between the voice of the ego and
Hmm.
the voice of the soul became clearer, much
Yeah.
clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, because you could step into, whatever that was and
Yeah.
like
No,
see
I
that
don't think
difference.
that's accessible at the moment. The doors are shut.
Yeah, right.
But that momentary opening, the Satori, was because you step away,
Yeah.
you see the full character in its painful glory.
Right. Right.
And you wonder what the heck is the fuss all about? Why is it in pain? And it's so funny. And you see the
Yeah.
mind like it's running on a treadmill at 12 miles an hour, and it's
Yeah.
scared it's going to fall off. And you want to tell it, okay, lessen the speed. It's okay. No, I gotta get there. That's my goal. I have to be there. And it's like, okay, well, it's ridiculous what you're doing. You get it? So
Yeah.
the entire thought process, the mind itself became so funny to see. And I was like, what would I not give to have that again? And I'm like, okay, that's my ego.
Oh, yep. Stepped in again. Yep.
So yeah, that has also happened along with Kundalini. And
Hmm.
Kundalini is very hard.
Yeah.
It's indescribable, actually. It does a lot more to the body than just to the mind.
Right.
Uh, so I've had experiences even at home, and I'm a lover of crystals. I have a lot of crystals in my house. So while having those experiences, I actually had like a couple of crystal geodes around me break on their own.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a lot of raw power.
Yeah.
And my current partner, he actually witnessed one of the episodes, and he was so scared for a few days that he was like, what am I dating?
What did I get myself into? Oh.
Uh, but I was able to tell him what he needed to do,
Yeah.
and he did it, and he could handle it.
Oh,
That's when I knew it,
cool.
that he was the one I was supposed to be with. That's when I knew it.
That's amazing. I know there's like rocks breaking around you and like he's still around.
Around.
Oh my goodness.
A different kind of a rock.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, can you kind of give us an idea? And I say spiritual path, but kind of what your spiritual path is like today, or sort of, even if it's not a path, it's, some predefined path, but any sort of practices that you kind of do, like your day to day or week to week, kind of, what does that look like?
For me, what do I do?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually don't do anything in particular, very honestly. I don't have any rituals per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I meditate when I get the inner calling to, and that could be like a whole day in it, or nothing for several days,
Yeah.
or just a few minutes in a day. Um, for me now, it's not like, oh, I have to meditate on the clock. Like I used to have apps before and,
Yeah.
all of that. And now no more. Now it's really more about I find my energy being pulled within. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
withdrawal from the outside world. like I lose interest in the world outside for a few moments. It's like someone is saying something and I'm like, okay, I have no interest in listening to what you have to say right now. So I need to go and meditate. And if it's my partner, my son, my friend, they get it. They get,
Yeah.
that I'm quirky and crazy. And they're like, okay, she needs to meditate, let her go. So I'll just move to another room and I'll just sit. And it could be sitting and watching a bird outside,
Yeah.
or it could be petting my cat, or it could just be with my eyes closed and just simply being aware. And, the days of guided meditation are over long ago. I don't,
Hmm.
in fact, that interferes with my own peace.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, otherwise, in fact, I do weight training.
Me too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually working out is one of my meditations because it forces me to focus on the breath. It forces me to focus on how my body is moving and become very, very self-aware. I like that. I love it.
Hmm.
For me, it's actually a very yin practice. And I do qigong as well. I've learned qigong and I've learned tai chi. So I do qigong when I feel I'm not able to get a handle on my emotions.
Mm.
I have a moon in Pisces, so my emotions are all over the place. Uh, so
Yeah.
I need to get a handle on them sometimes. So
Yep.
qigong really helps, and so does Bach flower therapy. So I
Mm.
use either of these to handle that.
Wow.
And when I have crisis, I have a couple of friends who are really, really good therapists. And
Cool.
there's like a 911 message that goes out.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, I like that. Well, gosh, too many things that you say things. I'm like, yeah, 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 the same thing. Similarly with meditation, like I was meditating for hours a day, for a couple years. And then now it's like, you know, I'm not. uh, and but I do strength training. I do similar, and I found the same thing. And for hours, I'm at the gym for like 3 hours lifting weights.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, and like, but I love it, and it's very meditative
It is.
and connecting with the body, which for me is huge, and I think for a lot of people is huge, like a huge thing, like getting into
It,
the body.
yeah, it is. It
Yes.
is. My
Oh,
partner he's also an athlete. So
wow.
for him, yeah. So for him, it's very important to, for him, meditation is that,
Right. Yeah.
and I was like, when I initially met him, I was like, seriously, I do the same thing. So he's like,
Wow.
okay, then we should go out. Oh.
You and me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm so jazzed. Like you also like to lift weights because I love it so much. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not your typical spiritual yoga girl. In
yeah.
fact, I'm crazy about rock music, and I use profanities a lot.
Right.
And I'm not your typical spiritual girl. I'm a very foul-mouthed mom of a teen boy.
Right. Your language is colorful. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And probably very relevant. You probably pick up all the good slang nowadays.
Yes,
So
I do. And I'm learning from Gen Z, and
yeah.
I don't understand a lot of their stuff, but I try to.
Awesome. Um, yeah, thank you for walking us through that. And so how would you say, and you had a video on this, so which I loved on Instagram. But how does somebody know when they're on the right path in their life?
Oh my God, I get so many people asking me this,
Yep.
especially clients. I want to be on the right path. I'm like, you'll never know. Are you freaking kidding me? I still don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Honestly, the answer is you don't. You don't know if you're on the right path,
Yeah.
and you never will. The only time that you'll see that you may have made some right choices, and that right is also a very judgy kind of a right,
Yeah.
uh, because it depends from what filter or what perspective you're looking at the whole situation. Um,
Mm.
like now when I look at it, uh, did I make the right decision to marry the man that I married? Not really. But was it the right decision spiritually? Yes, because he introduced me to this world. So it depends from which perspective I'm asking the question. So right is never, it's never the truth. It can be true for one thing and it can be true for something else, but it's never the truth.
Oof.
The truth is just one thing, and something that's true can be true for very different things, right? So it really depends on where you're looking at.
Mm.
But I also feel that if you're asking the question, you are probably doing it from your ego mind, because the spirit honestly doesn't give a damn. Right? It's only the ego that looks and says, "Oh, I think I made the right choice. I think I'm very
Yeah.
cool."
Good for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so honestly, we're all jumping off cliffs and growing wings on the way down,
Oof.
right?
Yeah.
And we have no clue where we are, and we don't even know where the heck the path starts, and even if there is one, right?
Right.
If you feel that you're on a path and you feel that it actually disappears, then that is the point that you have actually surrendered and now you're being led.
Yeah.
And you have to then learn to trust that instead of asking if you're on the right path.
Right.
It's like, I don't see a path anymore. I'm just taking a wild guess. Maybe if we continue, we might just get to where we're supposed to go.
Right.
Let's try it. Let's
Yeah.
just take a leap of faith and try it,
Ooh.
So, and if you are one of those people who's also like me, actually, in a lot of instances, that I'm planned, I'm charted, I have my points, and I know, and da da da. But there's always this space left for it to get completely screwed up.
Yeah.
It does not go as per what we planned, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm now willing to be, seen. I want to see where this is going to actually take me now.
Yeah.
So that too. So there is no right path.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I know I've definitely asked different spiritual healers, and I've asked them, am I on the right? I've asked that question for sure, right?
Yeah.
And it is like funny because you're right, because it's basically, it is now, it's like, well, I'm just kind of doing the best I can with the information I have in this moment. That's all I can do
Absolutely.
at this point.
Absolutely, you said it. Yeah. But there's this one funny point that you come to in your life and you look back, and from where you are then and the mindset you have then and the perspective you have then, you actually start saying that everything that happened was perfect. However wrong it may feel,
Yeah.
however terrible it may have seemed then, you see how magical and perfect it all was. And if you can look back and see that, because when you have faith and trust, it can't just filter into one area. When it comes into seeing your past perfect, you will also see your future as that.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's always worked out in my favor. It's always worked out in my favor. And if it has till now, it will in the future as well.
Right. Ooh, yeah, that is definitely hard for people, especially when you're in a time that's a bit challenging, right? It's super hard to remember
Yes.
um
And
that
you shouldn't be feeling that way if you're going through a hard time.
you're right.
Let me say that to anyone in the
Right.
future who may be watching this.
Yeah.
And say, okay, that could be because your life's going well. Hey, you know what? When my life's going shitty, I don't feel it either.
Right.
And if you pretend to feel it, then that's spiritual bypassing. And that's even more damaging.
Whoa.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge where you are. It's like, I'm really in a screwed up place right now, and I do not feel that right now. And I'm not even trying to get there right now.
Yeah.
In this moment, I'm just trying to breathe. And if you can do that, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's
Oof,
more than.
that is good stuff. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I think you're right. Because I think a lot of times, and I'm definitely guilty of this for sure too, when somebody's going through a tough time and you're like, you want to fix it with spiritual things, right?
Yes.
But maybe it's just, you sit in with yourself, and I'm just going to do the one thing I know I can do very well, which is breathe. Start from
And
there.
that's totally fine. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So can you kind of tell us, like, how do you assist your clients with your coaching and mentoring and all the really cool things that you do?
Oh God. I hate this question. This falls into that category of what do you do?
What
And
do you do? Yeah.
yeah, because it's like, I don't know how to explain it.
Mm,
Um, okay, so how do I explain this? So I think for me, I support people at all points of awakening. People do not come to me if they are not awakening. It's as simple as that.
mm,
You know, I have had people way in the past who came to me, oh, I need to fix my boyfriend problems. And I'm like, I don't have the patience for this. Right. I have zero interest in fixing your boyfriend issues. Right. So it's like if you're the one who has the problem, the boyfriend doesn't seem to be the issue. So let's take a look at what you are going through.
mm,
So for me, it's always been about forget that, let's bring the focus to you.
mm.
Because the premise is very simple. You are the experiencer of it. When something isn't going right, there is something there that is
Yeah.
getting you to experience it that way and to
Right.
look at it that way. We need to take a look at that.
Mhm.
So that is what I help people with.
Ooh, oh my gosh. And how that is amazing. Cause it's like, yeah, where in here is saying it's not right? Like, what's the not right? Like, what is,
Yeah.
gotta figure that out. That is
Yeah.
great. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
I can see how
So
that's
what
hard to explain.
exactly right.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But so
Always,
magical.
yeah. But if I had to put it simply in words, it's like people who struggle with themselves,
Mm,
people who struggle with their life, their perception, they don't know who they are, identity, purpose. They wonder if this is all that there is to their life.
yeah.
That's a big one. And there's also this whole bunch of people that feel that they're victims.
Yeah.
And that's, I take them from everything, everything always happens to me. I take them to everything always happens for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that transition, although it feels very sharp, is
Yeah.
actually a really long journey.
Right.
Yeah. And
Woo.
and victim consciousness is something that fascinates me.
Yeah.
Uh, and I do believe that in one's life, where the ego rears its head in its full glory, is when you're feeling like a victim, or you're depressed,
Mm,
or
yeah.
you've had tremendous success.
Those are
You
some
know, and
extremes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So those are two times where the ego really is in its full glory. And both kinds of people come to me. So then I have to remind them of who they really are.
Right.
Yeah. So all of these things. So you see, it's a little difficult, and I'm struggling to put my website up because I don't know what the heck to write. How do I
Oh
translate
my
this?
gosh. I know. Oh my goodness.
So then you put it under the classical signs like, oh, I help you with your struggle and, whatever. So, but I do help people uncovering a lot of the drivers behind their choices and their behaviors in their life, and help them to release that,
Mm-hmm.
um, and change the relationship with themselves, and therefore the relationship with people around them, and discover where does their bliss actually lie, and why are they not there yet.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And also, what is their highest potential as a human being? And then getting on the path to discovering that. Because you do come to a point where you don't have problems per se anymore. You've sorted it all out. You've got the tools on how to do it. Now you want to really grow.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't know where you want to go.
Right. But
It's
where?
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have so many people who come to me with like, the way I describe it is they come with like a fully fueled jetpack on their back, but they're strapped to a chair. So they're struggling. They're like, I want to take off, but I can't. I'm like, I really want to go somewhere, but I said, I get the urgency.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah, let's get to work. So that's a fun group of people to work with.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, that's a good point. It's like more around the question of like, well, where you want to go. That's a
Yeah.
big question because now you're like, well, now I have to have a plan or not a plan, but like I have to sort of figure out like what do I want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. Most people I ask a question, what do you want? Do not have an answer.
I know.
Do not have an answer. And I'm like, I wish somebody asked me, I would give you 20 things that I want to do right now. I'm like, come on.
Oh,
Yeah. But I
yeah.
think even helping people discover what they really want is
Mm.
also, it takes time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely been that person where I was asked by a spiritual kind of guided person, like, what do you want? And literally vapor lock, like I don't know, and that's been my process, for the last however many years, 10 years. Like, what do I actually want?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's a long process.
it is.
Oh, wow. So I think you have, can you tell us about, you have a Beyond the Veil webinar coming up, and it's about demystifying spirit communication. Can you give us a little bit of like what that's going to be like for people?
So this program was born because me and a friend of mine who are co-facilitating the program, we both have a capacity with the spirit world, and we've had it for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
I have learned many other tools and modalities along the way, but they all had their own limitations. And after a point, I realized I had to get into a lot of ritualistic stuff to start using them. So I didn't want to do that anymore. I'm always a person who likes to keep everything very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So we created this program, which is completely original content based on our collective experience of about 38 years together on this. So I started experiencing spirits when I was, I think, 3 years old. And I experienced the spirit of who at that time I called my brother. And he was in my life till I was in my teens. And then he just disappeared one day.
Oh.
And when I was pregnant with my son, I was having a conversation with my mom. And I had just completed some healing program. I can't remember which one it was. But in that, it said that abortions and losing a baby, miscarriages, run in the family.
Mm.
Yeah. So obviously, as a pregnant mother, I was a little, apprehensive. So I just asked my mom, "Have you had either of those two?"
Mm.
She said, "Yeah, I had a miscarriage." I was like, "When?" And she said, "That was when you were about 3." And she said it was a boy. And initially, I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I was like,
Wait.
"What? Wait, what?" And she's like, "Why?" And I have a younger sister who's 7 years younger to me. So I said, "This was between me and her." She said, "Yeah, when you were 3." It was like, oh. And then
What?
I shared with her what it was. And she was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "You guys never listened to me when I was small. You never took anything I said seriously." I said, "Now when I'm pregnant, you'll listen to me just because I'm married and pregnant." Right. And I do spirit stuff. So now you know. So
Right.
I freaked her out. But that's when I knew that I was like, oh. And then I realized that when I was in my 20s, an alcoholic, I was actually trying to numb everything out because the world was way too intense for me.
Mm-hmm.
Kept picking up people's energies, and I used to see faces in people's faces, and I used to genuinely think I was crazy. I would drink to numb that out. And then
Yeah.
I realized later that that was a capacity.
Wow.
So it started from there. And anyway, so we put all the signs and symptoms and everything that both of us have experienced over the years, everything has gone into this course that we created. And the original course is actually called the Spirit Guide Program. And it's a certification program. And you become an internationally certified practitioner. So you can actually practice anywhere in the world. And you get accredited by IPHM for this.
Oh, wow.
And the webinar is just literally a 2-hour quick peek and experience into what we normally experience every day, we take people into that journey. And many people get to meet their spirit guides for the first time. So it's very fascinating for them. And so many people, trust me, if you sign up for this class, you'll be crying for 2 hours because your heart will be opening, and you'll be like, I met my grandfather, I met my mother. The experiences are so amazing that it's difficult for me and my colleague to even keep a straight face, throughout, because we're crying too. And
Yeah.
it's because when you see people completing a journey with a loved one, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And that happens to a lot of people in this webinar. So this webinar
Mm.
needs to come with a disclaimer that tissues can be.
You're gonna cry. Bring tissues. Yeah.
Yeah. So what a lot of people perceive this world to be as dark and treacherous and mysterious and scary and all of that, it is not any of those things.
Mm.
I must even share with you, I had this one particular reel that went completely viral. It's like at some 6 million views right now. And
Whoa.
it is about the world. It's there on my Instagram account.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so many people say that you're doing the devil's work, you're doing demon's work, and da 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 da. I'm like, okay, thank you for your perspective. This is so funny. You've just shown me where you are in life. It's like, you just told me a whole lot about yourself.
Right.
Right? So I want to actually, I was so tempted to share with them that demons are actually not bad. They are terribly lost.
Mm.
They've been in the darkness for so long, they have forgotten what the light is like. And even if you give them 2 minutes of your love, they'll listen to you.
Mm.
And not because they're supposed to do your bidding or any crap like that, because they're just attached to somebody and they're like, okay, guys, it's time to go. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for your love. And that's it. They're gone. They can actually be real puppies beyond all that scariness that they have. And
Mm.
they will intimidate you, they will scare you, but your job is to remain absolutely steadfast. And in Buddhism, there's a beautiful system called the Tonglen method, where you treat the dark side or the demonic world with 100% compassion.
Wow.
And you transmute those energies. And Buddhist monks have been doing it for thousands of years. How do you think when you're in the awakening process and you're a monk and you have so many of these monks worldwide that are awakened and enlightened, how do you think they deal with that world? They
Right.
don't sit in my class,
Yeah.
right? They have their ways, and they are some of the most compassionate people in the world. And
Amazing.
compassion is what wins over everything, the dark side, the light side, everything. So we teach you how to get into that state.
Wow.
And that is really, really amazing, because then once you're in that state with the spirit world, you're in that state with anybody in any world.
Right. Yeah. If you can be compassionate to a demon, like, come on.
They are, I think, the best training ground.
Right.
Best training ground for fearlessness, for courage, for compassion, for kindness, and non-judgment.
Right.
And you will love yourself like a million times more if you do this work. It changes you. Um, so it's not just the pretty, flowery, sweet stuff. It's also what is known as the scary stuff.
Yeah.
But we teach how to navigate that and become really powerful as a human being.
Yeah.
And you realize that you're not actually just this body and this mind. You're like a whole lot of energy that you've not even begun tapping into. So it's a
Right.
very exciting program. You
Ooh.
almost feel like a little bit like Doctor Strange.
Ooh. That's
Yeah.
I like that. There's different dimensions, different for
Yes,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have all of I mean, you can imagine when I saw Doctor Strange, I was jumping in my seat in the theater. I was, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, they know the middle. Oh my God, where did they do their research? Like, I was freaking out. My friends thought I'd lost it. They had a
It's
hard
just a
time
movie.
containing me. I'm like, why the hell would I be contained? Like, they made a movie that's speaking all my language.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. I love that your like person is like Doctor Strange. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In the entire Marvel universe, he's my man.
Very cool. Oh man. Yeah. So many things. Oh man. Yeah, thank you for walking us through sort of like the dark stuff too, because it's a part that, is hard. And I'm glad that you and your co-host partner has like figured out that it's hard, and you have like a system of helping people
Yeah.
through that. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're wrapping up for today. It's been great. Oh man, yeah, we have so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, we have so many things in common, and I love all the stories that you shared. But where can folks find you and learn more about you and all the cool things that you do?
So I'm primarily on Instagram. You can find me. My handle is Awaken with Aditi, and that's Awaken with ADITI. And yeah, I post stuff. You can DM me there, and we can connect.
Yeah. I definitely highly recommend checking out Aditi's Instagram. It's awesome. You're, like you said, you have some colorful language and like very like to the point, and I appreciate that approach. So I love it.
Thank you.
So you've already shared so much wisdom with us today. Do you have any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us with?
Oh boy. Ah. Okay, let me leave you with a funny one then.
Great.
Here's one of my favorite quotes: "The wiser you get, the more you learn to shut up."
That's a great one.
But it's true. It's true.
Listen and observe. It's a good thing.
Oh, so much fun.
Well, oh, thank you so much, Aditi. I loved having you as a guest, and can't wait to see all the cool things you're going to be doing soon.
Thank you so much. I had a great, great time. And you're such a lovely human being. I must share that.
Oh, thank you. I
You got
appreciate you
that
so
whole
much.
gentleness going, and you're also this, tough as nails girl, and I love all of it.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much.
So I'm sending you a big energetic hug from here.
Right back at you. Thank you. Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.